Hello everybody. How are we doing today? I thought I'd get started just a little bit earlier. I've managed to set everything up with a bit of time to spare. Usually something, it's a little bug or something in the beginning when I start streaming, but it looks to be all good. So if you're here, welcome. Thank you for joining. And I thought I would just quickly introduce myself. My name's Darren. I basically do videos each week and some live video workshops where we go through how to paint different watercolor scenes. And so far, I've been doing about a couple each week, two different streams, four different paintings per week. It's quite a bit, and you can look at the previous videos as well. Got them in there. May reduce them down to just one painting per session, depending on how we go. At the moment, I'm managing all right, though sometimes these streams do go quite a while. But hang around if you're still kicking, still got some energy for the second one. I thought we'll do the first one. The first scene of Venice with this, just the one I've got up on the screen here, top right hand corner. Now, if you are struggling to find the reference photo, you just need to go into the communities tab in YouTube. I've also linked it in the chats, and on Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, have a look as well on the pinned comments. So I pinned an area of the discussion, and you can check the reference there. So I think Gail Dennis was asking about that. So I hope you managed to find that, Gail. Let me know. So for those of you who are new here or who are kind of watching from previous sessions, love to hear where you're from. So leave a comment in the chat, and also perhaps put in just one thing that you'd like to get out of this workshop today. Whether it be learning about tone, learning about color, specific color mixes, just so that I have an idea of if I do remember, and I'll go back as well to try to I guess link it to what I'm doing. Okay, so just to make it a little bit more worthwhile. So here are a few little bits and pieces, little paintings and things that I've done over the last I don't know how long, over the last probably month that I've been painting. So we'll be doing something similar to this for the second one. Okay, perhaps a bit more detailed because I've got a larger sheet of paper. As you can see here, I've taped down two sheets of quarter. These are quarter sheet sizes. So not sure in terms of inches, but it's about an A3 size, slightly smaller than A3 size. So I do want to go through just some of the techniques, some of the ways that I reduce down scenes and paint water using wet and dry techniques. And yeah, just basically turn a reference photo into a beautiful painting, something that looks unique from the reference as well. So uh, yeah, do let me know how you're going in the comments. I would love to hear from you. We've got V here as well. How you doing, V? Good water reflection is where I need help. Okay, cool. I'll definitely be talking about that because we've got lots of water, certainly a lot of water to paint here. So there's two ways two different techniques that I use to paint water, which I'll go through. So I hope that will help you out. Philip's here as well. How you doing, Philip from Tennessee? Fantastic. Good to see you again, guys. And on Facebook, let's see who we got here. We've got Robin. How you doing, Robin from South Carolina? This is my second class. I struggle with letting my work stand as is and tend to want to rework my efforts. Yeah, it's tricky because often you tend to compare your work to the reference photos, and I think while you need to have a sense of certainly some overlapping um, areas, I guess, in tones, in terms of like the actual buildings, the defining some of the buildings, if you're painting like a famous location or something like that. At the same time, a painting should be completely different from that. So don't think that it has to 100% represent what the reference is. I mean, we've got cameras for that now, and I suppose since Van Gogh and a few of the others, there's a lot of I guess the internal picture that you have, the vision that you have inside of you to portray. I think that's uh, very very important. So um, you know, keep on with it, Robin. So let's have a look who else. So you've also got Gail. Also got Gail here in the comments, and let's so what I usually do with my paper, I do tape it around the sides, as you can see, and so that makes a nice little border, um, which creates just a nice crisp edge, especially with watercolors. I find it just helps a lot more. I know some of you are probably more inclined towards line and wash. I'm going to be doing these two in pure watercolors, but if you want to do them in line and wash, that's 100% fine as well. So it's pretty much the same thing. I'm going to be drawing in pencil though. I'll probably draw a little bit. I'll draw a little bit harder onto the paper so that perhaps you guys can see. I've got the light, I've got one light above, and then I've got the window completely open, so there's plenty of light in here. So I think it should be okay. Um, but fantastic. We've also got Ellen. How you doing, Ellen? She's in the comments as well from YouTube and one of my patrons. Thank you for joining from Maui. We've also got Priscilla Short from Priscilla Short. I'm not sure Tech. I'm not sure that location, Priscilla, but thank you for joining. And we've also got Jane Bowman from Sydney, Australia. Awesome, another Aussie in the chats here. It's getting close to 10:30, guys, so I'm gonna get started in just a moment. It won't take too long to sort of do this sketch, but yeah, before I get started, I know some of you haven't seen my work and things like that. So these are just some that I've done in previous workshops. This is basically some sunflowers that I did the other day. It's a pre-recorded one that I've got online still. A little sketch that I did. I'm probably going to do some portraiture or some figure sketching in the next couple of classes. So some people have asked for that, and I think, yeah, fair enough. I think it's a good thing to learn as well. So here's a few more. The light's a bit stronger on the left-hand side, so you're probably better off looking on the left-hand side, just looks a bit brighter. But here are a few sketches and a few paintings that I've done over the past month, just to let you know what my style is like. It's pretty loose. There's still an element of accuracy and I suppose some sharper shapes in there as well. I try to blend elements of realism with yeah, just a more abstract, looser sort of shapes. So just in case some of you want to see some of the bits and pieces that I've done, I do have a bunch of other sketchbooks as well, but I won't go through all the sketchbooks. It's just more for those of you who are new. You're probably wondering, yeah, what kind of stuff I paint. Is it right? Is it kind of something that you like and the style that you like, that kind of thing. So this should help you out a little bit to sort of gauge the type of work that I do. So fantastic. So I'm gonna grab the other bit of paper now, move this away, and we'll start off here. I think you guys can see pretty all right. I've managed to move the camera so that you can see pretty much the whole sheet of paper, which is great. But this is a quarter sheet, so it's a fairly large sheet of paper. Yeah, if you've got an A4 size bit of paper, 9 by 12 inches, even like a bit smaller, you're completely fine. I just find when you're painting on smaller bits of paper, it's a little more tricky um, to basically get in shapes and draws. So I do recommend you using a slightly larger bit of paper if you have that available. We've got a few others in the chats. Edna, how you going, Edna Reyes? And morning. I remember you from last time, so thank you for coming along again. We've also got Pankaj. 𝗣𝗘𝗢𝗡𝗢𝗡 from India. Beautiful, very attractive works. Feel lucky to be here. Thank you, 𝗣𝗘𝗢, for the kind words, and really appreciate all of you spending your time here, your evening here, or your morning here if you're over in Australia. So um, I hope to really make this worth your while. And like I was saying before, if you have any questions during the demonstration, if you're having any struggles, let me know in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer your questions to help you out. So yeah, certainly let me know. And also, yeah, if you have any ideas on something that you want to learn during this session, particularly in watercolors, maybe you're not sure about what colors to use in general. Maybe you're working on your drawing or you're working on fine details. Let me know in the chat. So I'd love to hear what you're trying to focus on, what your next goal is in terms of your watercolors. We've also got Shanolan. How you going, Shanolan? Thank you for joining. Good evening, Darren, and everyone. It has snowed here today. Ooh, I've how exciting! I don't see snow very much over here in Australia, so um, fantastic. We've also got Vicky from Lake Macquarie, first time, and thank you, Vicky. Thank you for joining. And if you like the video anytime or during the session, please feel free to like the video. That helps me sort of get a few more visitors, and also share the video as well if you know part of groups and things, anyone that might be interested. That would help me out a lot. So let's go ahead and get cracking, everybody. So the first scene here, I'm going to be bringing up the reference picture. Now, make sure you've got the reference picture up on the screen as well as the video. It's going to help you a great deal, essentially, to be able to get in a little bit more detail, okay? Because if you're looking at the little photo in the right-hand corner of the screen, it's probably going to be tricky for you to draw it in this scene. So I recommend having it up on the side. So I'm going to start off doing the drawing, and I will check back on the chats periodically. So if you have any questions, that kind of thing, comments, pop them in the chats. Love to hear from you. Now, first thing we want to do, I always go with the easiest thing to draw first, because I know a lot of people start off painting and primarily they just want to get straight into the painting, and drawing is something that's new for them. But drawing is super important as well, because it forms a guideline as to how you're going to approach your painting, and it helps also prepare you mentally, because while you're drawing, you're kind of thinking as well, you're always thinking of the colors. You're drawing an area that's a bit darker, that's a bit lighter, so you're kind of already beginning the painting process at this point, funny enough. So what I want to do first is put in this line where the buildings touch the water. So if you look at the photograph, you got it up on the screen. We draw a line right through the center of the page, and then we compare that to, say, the reference photo. It's almost slightly lower, so it's not right that the buildings don't finish right in the center of the page, but they finish a little bit lower. I often use my hands as well, my fingers, to almost pretend like I'm drawing in ways, and that helps me to kind of gauge space. It's almost like I'm preparing, before you throw a ball, you kind of pretend to throw it. It's that kind of thing. I also do that with the pencils. So I'll look at a few times, just practice it a few times, and I think, okay, it's about here, and then I'll start drawing that line across. And again, you may want to have more sky, or you may want to have more water showing through. That's completely up to you. Okay, I'm going to have probably a little bit more sky showing through here, and this is just a rough little line here at the base, and it may change later on. Sometimes I do like to stand up as well. I will potentially stand up multiple times during this demo, because it just helps me kind of gauge whether the lines are straight, things are in the correct proportions. When I'm drawing on this kind of angle and the camera is directly above, normally when I draw, I'm a little bit closer to the paper and a bit more, I don't know, like hunched over. But this is one of the few times where I've got some good posture, because I can't lean forwards. So we're going to go in and start putting in some of the easier sections, like I said. So we have this line there. So I hope you guys have got that in. Now, the other thing that I would say is probably the easiest bit to draw is the center. I always look at the center of the page, and the center we conveniently have this dome. So it's basically the this is the Santa Maria della Salute in Venice. It's a beautiful scene, and I like that the lights kind of hits the sides of some of these buildings. So we're not going to cut. It's almost the buildings are almost quite dark and they look backlit, but actually the sun is on the right hand side. It's lovely golden orange and some pinks and stuff like that in there as well. So with the dome, we know that if you know the buildings finish around here, and then we're going to look at the top of like the dome, the actual round bit, the large round bit of the dome. And I would say the dome finishes around about, it's almost a halfway or a little bit higher than halfway up the scene. So about there. Okay, so we're looking at that sort of circular, semicircular shape like that. Okay, so that's where I'm going to put in like the top of the dome. And then we know we've got another section that goes roughly up here. Okay, this other part of the dome runs downwards like that. It's got a couple little openings there. Okay, we've got another bit of the dome on top there like that. So that's how I kind of gauge roughly the proportions that I'm going to be using. Okay, where to put them, where to put these objects in. I'm sort of using little estimations, like I said, are roughly about where it falls on the page. And yeah, so if we get that middle section in, the bottom of that dome, which is, yeah, it's roughly about halfway through the page or just below halfway, the halfway point of the page, if you want to be super precise. Draw that in, okay? And take a bit of time with that. Don't really don't rush yourself. On top of the domes, there's a kind of figure on top there. It's a statue or something like that, which we don't really have to emphasize all too much. On the domes, on top of the domes, well, you've got these little bits that stick out. They're basically, I think, little architectural details, or they could be little figures. I can't really remember. But we got that dome, and this has to be pretty. It has to be pretty representational because it's the center of the scene in a pretty big focal area. And then I'm going to get in the details underneath. So again, I'm going to separate this roughly into half, the halfway point about there. So put a little halfway point. The bottom of that dome, and then the ground, and then you've got this halfway point. And in this halfway point, we have a few different things here. So we have like this, it's kind of like the side of the cathedral there. It's just got a kind of triangular bit, bunch of these little pillars and stuff coming down like this. Okay, and not, I guess it's not super important to get them in exactly, but roughly the location I think is a good idea. Actually, a good side portion here. And guys, I hope I don't sneeze too much. I've got a bit of hay fever today, but I've popped one of them pills, so that should be okay. Hopefully, I don't get too drowsy though. So let's have a look here. So we got another. This is another triangular shape. It's just part of the cathedral, the front of it, like that. And then you've got more areas beneath. We've got some of these. It's like a kind of area here, and then something below. It's not a huge deal in here. It's like a kind of darkened area as well. And even on top here, there's like little figures and things like that here on top. So I'm just taking a bit of time to draw those in. And underneath here, we've got this kind of like a under bit of the dome. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, there's this little kind of separations that come out, and this is where we want to start also adding in a little bit of separation for the dome areas. So just a little bit like that. Side. I will put in a little bit of these kind of darker sections in here as well. They're just these like openings inside, but they're slightly obscured. You look at them, they're slightly obscured by these little figures and statues and stuff like that. Okay, a lot of this stuff we won't even need to detail all that much. We're just wanting to put in a quick preliminary sketch. So we've got that main part of the dome in, and I think that's one of the most important bits. Now we want to put in the next dome. There's like a little one here. We know that it finishes around halfway up that one. So I'm going to estimate it to fall around about there, that, and we'll get in the top part of this dome like that, there. Okay. There's that second one, kind of almost behind that first one, like that. Okay. And let me know how you're going as well, and if you can see. Okay, I'm going to draw a little bit darker actually. Okay, there is a couple of these other statues and things on the side, but what we're going to do first, let's try to get in a real basic shape of these buildings. Now, I'm going to simplify this down to like a big rectangle, this side there. And then over on this side, we have another section. It's kind of like the edge of the scene here. And we've got kind of like what is part of the edge of that building there. Looks like there's a kind of statue, kind of monument or something like that up the top. That I'm not sure what it's called. I can't remember. So we're going to go in and put in a bit of that side sort of section of that. And, it's so important to get in the little side areas here. It's kind of like drawing a square or a rectangle with a little side section like that. And that basically just allows you to get in a bit of sunlight hitting the side of that. Now, thing I've noticed, just having a sort of measuring everything up, I think that's okay. It's not exact. I mean, this top of this whole thing kind of goes a little bit further up. So if you want to be super detailed and accurate, then I'd reduce that down very slightly. That, and just so it doesn't look too large. But really, all these buildings in the background, they can be simplified down to this kind of rectangular shape. And then all you do is that you just start breaking them down into smaller shapes. This, that's a rooftop there. Over here, for example, you've got another squarish shape that is popping out from the side there, like that. What else do we have? What else do we have in here? We've got few windows and doors and all that kind of thing in here. The main thing is to get the basic proportions right. And once those proportions are in, we can let the brushwork do all the hard work with the brush later. So it just makes it a lot easier if we do it that way. This down. That's another kind of rooftop, and the edge of this building here, which comes in about here, like that. You got another section below that. This large building is just separated up into two sections. And then we've got kind of like these little archways and doors all along the back region like that. Okay, so I'm just going to simplify that down, and when we go in with some of the watercolors, we'll certainly add in a teeny bit more detail. Started. Take a look. I think that's a bit might be a little bit slightly too large, but just gonna leave it in. Just leave it in. So going around to this right hand side, another side of that building there, like that. All these buildings are pretty much in the dark, except for perhaps this one over here on that right hand side. This actually goes down roughly here. That's too high up section. So you're kind of using this shape to draw in this shape, knowing that it's a little bit lower than this sort of right hand side of the cathedral, like that. And then on the top, I'm going to start putting in some little areas of rooftop or what have you, like that. Okay, good. And then over this side of the building here, interesting section again. That just buildings. down like that. We've got a few more buildings here out in the distance and bits and pieces, which we're not going to emphasize all too much. That is looking okay. We can get in this kind of tower here as well. We notice that it's far up, is it? Finishes up about here. And then the rest of it is just, if you look at it, it's kind of a rectangular, slightly actually square sort of shape that, but it has a funny kind of top. And just got to put it in like that there. Better. Okay. Also, try to use a thinner pencil. I'm using a pretty thick one at the moment, just so that you guys can see what I'm drawing, because I know it's a bit tricky to see the smaller pens. So yeah, I hope this is kind of helping out a little bit, so you can see what is going on. Do let me know how you are going. We're nearly almost done with the sketch. Of course, we have this gondola here. So uh, interesting sort of part. So we need to measure roughly where it starts and finishes. So we know the gondola perhaps starts about here near the tower. Drawing it there. And then we've got the front of it, which finishes roughly around here. Okay. So we can draw that in. It's kind of like a U shape. You can see like a bit of a U shape like that. And the top sticks out more, and then it will edge like that and just goes straight into the water. Yeah. And you've got a lot of this kind of flat area there. And then it comes up there and connects onto the front. So it's kind of like a fancy U shape. So think of it, when you're drawing things, always think of them in terms of shapes, rather than thinking, hey, I'm going to draw a boat, I'm going to draw this and that. I think it just makes it a lot easier for you to reduce them down to smaller shapes. Here we have a person. These fellas just moving gondolas. I did go to Venice a few years back, and I didn't actually go on one of these things. So but here we go. Got the paddle in the water, and we of course have a few people here in the boat gondola. So I just put in a little indication of a few figures perhaps sitting in there. We can detail them more later, but this is just more to get a basic area there. Now, having a look in the background, there's all this kind of logs lying across. Now, I don't think I'll get those in, but what I do want to get in is some of these poles, these wooden poles that stick out from the water. I think they just make things look more interesting, and you've got the opportunity to get in a kind of reflection for them as well. There's a larger sort of barge or something out here in the distance. I think I'm going to chop that one out. I don't really like the look of it. It's just interrupts the scene too much. We can put in like another small boat, here, or we could get in a second. We do have some gondolas here as well that we can just, okay, so here, perhaps this one can be just over here in the distance, but a little closer than that one. Okay, just indication, kind of have the front of it pop up like that. There's another shape here that could be a barge or something like that, or that could be actually be the, have a look, what is that? It's a, I'm really not sure, but it's not a huge deal. I think I'll just leave something like that in there in the background, and we can get in some of these little gondola shapes lined up here. Maybe I thought let's put in another one. Yeah, that coming in like that. The side, good. A little bit of detail inside. Having a look around and checking for just balance in this scene as well. Here's a large kind of hole coming in here, and actually goes down further about there. This is good. We're going to be able to get in a little reflection from this, and then we'll get in another one perhaps about here. And then another one here. They get thinner as they go back, so certainly make that kind of clear. Go further back in the distance, they get smaller, they get a little bit thinner like that, so that you are creating the illusion of everything kind of receding into the distance. This is a little too large. That was kind of bugging me for a bit. I'm gonna just quickly redraw that. It sometimes you draw something and then you realize it just sticks out too much. It draws too much attention. And if it's a small thing like this, just take the time to quickly redo it. So I'm just drawing in the side, the edges, do that, and then we've got the top section there. I think that looks a bit better. So now it looks a bit more understated. Before it was just too large. Section there just sticking out. So remember to get in this side area here. So important because that's the light is going to be reflected off. Here is another segment of light. Just drawing it a little bit darker so you can see. Here is another segment of light. Here. So here, they're the lot of lightest bits. Also on the cathedral, you've got a bit of light on that right-hand side as well, like that. So certainly put that in. The outlines of the cathedral is not here. I think just the top's fine. What have we got? I think another little kind of dome here in the background. I'll get that one in as well. Yeah, it's kind of like another tower, I think, off in the background. I don't know. I'm not so happy with that one, but I think we'll just I'm just gonna go with it. Anyhow, perhaps the top of it I could just reduce down a little bit. Okay. Smaller. Better. We're just about done. Done with the drawing. We can get in with the painting. Again, you got another choice if you want to put in another gondola or something here. Sometimes it helps to kind of balance out. Yeah, it kind of helps to balance out the entire scene. So I might, for example, put one in here. Perhaps there's one overlapping as well here. And then I can just making this up. I don't really have a reference for it. That. It's inside there. Like that. This allows me to get in a little bit of reflection on the left and right hand sides. What else can we put in? Perhaps a couple of these little poles as well. These wooden poles. I'm looking for opportunities for us to put reflections in, because we have some reflections and it's just going to look a bit more, slightly more interesting. There are no kind of really poles over on this side, but I'm thinking perhaps I put one a little bit closer. I'm thinking, will it help balance out this side, or we can have like another one here that's closer, and then just one here. So there's kind of a bit of an imbalance. So it's like 3. So if I have, yeah, I could put one here, but just looking like it's just a little bit further behind. And perhaps on an angle as well. Let me show you what I mean. So this one's slightly on an angle. And we put another one in, coming in on the opposite kind of angle like this. So it's a bit, it's good. It's keeping it loose. So we kind of finish it off roughly here. There we go. So we've got two kind of angles. One's coming in from this angle, one's coming in from like that angle. Kind of like a bit wonky. And this is going to be interesting because then we can get a reflection that comes off, curves off in a different way. Here, let's put one in here to balance it out slightly. No. I always like to sort of change it up a bit and scene and just see if I can experiment around and use it to kind of practice how I do reflections and things like that. So, yeah, don't get too bogged down by the reference. Here's a couple there. There we go. So you have a reflection coming in from. So when we do the reflection, what you got to remember is that the reflection is going to be a kind of mirror image to that. So if this is coming in on this angle, it will come off on that angle. If the pole is completely straight, then the reflection will appear completely straight. But if you, yeah, again, angle, just kind of repeat that angle. It's kind of like, what is it? There's an angle of uh, incidence and inflection. So it kind of just comes off on that same tangent. I think that looks pretty good. I don't have anything else that I really wanted to draw in here. You know, there's some darkness, and I don't know what this is. It kind of looks like a building or something on that side, and just disappears off. Okay, but let's go ahead and get started. You know, I may decide later. Let's that we put in another pole here or something like that. But I think now we are okay. I'm gonna check the chats and see how everyone is doing. Let me know. Certainly, let me know how you're going. Philip says, "I love how you explained your drawing technique. You answered questions I didn't even know I had, and simplified things I didn't realize I was doing the hard way. I'm going to attempt your finger measuring system." And give up the proportional divider. Yeah, proportional dividers are really good, but I think I'm just impatient with using them, and unless I'm doing something like portraiture, I try to just draw for freehand. Um, yeah, and notice how I draw with quite loose marks on the paper as well. So one, it's a little bit lighter, and two, then you don't if you draw too accurately in one area, then you have to make all the other areas pretty accurate. I mean, neat is what I'm trying to say. Neat, like all in one sort of straight line. If you've got another area that's a bit messy, and then you've got this sort of neat area, it just sticks out too much. So I think I kind of aim more for consistency, and that has served me well. And here's another area of that light. I thought I'd mark out for you guys. See, just on this side of the building, very closely, that building there. That's an area of light there. So just a little mental reminder for me to keep that area, just keep that area untouched, because it's such a it's such a temptation to go in and change things around, and yeah, try to fix things up, or uh, say. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the painting. I'm going to have a quick look at the chats. We've got Vicky. How you going? Vicky March from Lake Macquarie, first time, and thank you. Appreciate you being here, Vicky. We've got Chris Kane, Phoenix, Arizona. Used to live in Melbourne and loved it. Oh, cool. Were you here for were you born over here, or did you sort of come over here for work? Um, yeah, I know a few of my friends who are engineers and stuff like that, and they've gone over to the States to work, or kind of in technical fields. Needs to be more of a marker for that type of work over there. It's Carolina, hey love, hi from PA. You're doing Caroline, thank you for coming along. Madonna, hi from MN. I'm not sure where some of these states are in the states, so forgive me if I'm kind of just mentioning them. I'm still learning all the states. Carol Craig says thank you. Enjoyed very much from South Carolina. We've got Nada. How you doing, Nada? Um, Enjoying dipping my brush back into the paint. Fantastic. Neha's saying having trouble seeing the sketch. I guess I don't have enough contrast. Yeah, that's one of the troubles, I guess, when I'm doing these watercolor tutorials. It can be a bit tricky for you to see, uh, yeah, see it exactly. But um, I've used a slightly thicker pencil, so I hope that's helped out a little. Another thing you can do afterwards, you might be able to replay it, zoom in, and make it out a little better. But yeah, look, just try to use the drawing techniques that I've described in here, and yeah, you should come up with something somewhat similar, as long as you get in the basic areas first. The line where the buildings finish off at the bottom, that kind of thing. Chris says, just came over because a friend moved to Sydney. I lived there first. Awesome. Melbourne's nice. I'm actually from Perth originally, and I moved over here five or 6 years ago. A bit more exciting than Perth, but friends over there say Perth is now the new thing, which is interesting. Nada, um, Nada says first time with you also, and Minnesota, Madonna. Okay, so that's Minnesota, Madonna. Excellent. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and let's get started with the painting. So let's. I'm going to bring up reference photo, and let's have a look what we're going to do first. Now, I always like to start with a little bit of color for the buildings, a little bit of the warm colors in there. Try to paint everything kind of wet onto wet. And we got to remember also there's two kind of shapes in here. We've got we've got kind of sharp areas, and then we've got sharper sort of shapes, and then we've got softer shapes like areas of the water, the area of the sky. Um, but one way I sort of tackle the first bit. Now, this is very important when you first start painting in watercolors. You need to make sure that you get in this first wash um, nice and light, and it's going to look almost quite pale. It's going to look too pale, but that's because we don't have in any of the darker paints yet. You need to have your lighter tones, your mid tones, and then all the really dark tones at the end. Otherwise, it doesn't look much. It doesn't look like anything. There's a kind of a pain point where in the middle of your painting where you're thinking it just doesn't look like anything. It looks too pale. But you need to layer the colors for it to start appearing and scene to start kind of evolving in front of you. So be patient and continue on. The first part is super important in getting in those really light areas, but they won't really make sense until later on. So let's pick up. I'm going to actually I've got a color called quinacridone burnt orange. I've been quite obsessed with it lately. It's a quinacridone orange basically. It's beautiful, beautiful color, and I may use this to get in just the warm areas. And what I like to do as well around this point is I tend to actually put in a lot of warmth over most of the buildings. Start off like this, here on the right hand side, almost coloring most of the buildings in with this warm sort of color, and then we'll go over the top. Um, Again, just adding in some cooler sort of tones after. But here's a few bits of this beautiful kind of orangey sort of color, and perhaps a bit up the top there as well. Okay, I do think that I want to exaggerate some of the light on here, and what I mean by that is, get in a bit of the orange on that part of the building, part of these little towers and things. I think it's gonna quite interesting. So dropping it in. Look how quick I'm just adding it in like that. Yeah. A bit of burnt sienna. If you got some burnt sienna, that can kind of dull down this color a bit. Well, and it's going around. I think we've got our house there on that right hand side. Drop that in. And remember, we've got areas of these kind of light. So here on that side of that building, see here that I've kind of drawn in a bit more. Here I'm just going to put a little bit more orange in there, like that, a bit more orange in there, cut around that, like that. And because we're using a lot of blues later and maybe some purples, this is going to be a great sort of complementary color for later on. So trying to be quick as well. It can be a challenge, especially depending on where you're living. If it's pretty hot, things just tend to dry so quickly, and before you know it, you want to put in some other colors and it's already dried. So I'm going to drop in a little bit of neutral color. So let's mix a bit of red. I've got a bit of red here, just your three primaries. Got your red, and then you've got your yellow. That red, yellow, and a bit of blue. And I'm just going to mix myself up a hopefully just like a kind of grayish color, neutral grayish color in here. Okay, it's actually pretty dark. Drop in a bit like that here, just on some parts of the buildings, areas where you want to create a bit of darkness in some spots. Now, remember, this is just a little little bit of wet and wet work for now. I'm going to actually put in a lot of the darker colors, the really darker colors later on, but this helps to build out some interest in that background, creates just a little bit more drama back there. Okay, so that's not all the same orangey sort of color. Okay, so kind of mix that up. And it actually, if you mix it in with the orange, it just dulls down the orange. So one of those things, one of those colors, you know, I'm dropping a bit up the top here, down the side of that building, like that. You know, there, maybe a bit there. The layering of all these is super important. That's why there's only a certain amount of detail you can get in for each wash. So don't try to paint everything all in one go. We're doing what is best at this particular time. I'll look at the bottom now. It's looking all right. Make sure that we bring these buildings down far enough where the water is. Okay, I'm going to leave that to sit just a moment. Okay, while I go into the sky. Let's go into the sky. So you have a little spray bottle as well. This helps to keep it kind of wet for a bit longer. So I'll just bring this out, spray the sky a bit, spray this bottom area a little bit so that it doesn't dry up. And then I'm going to go straight into the sky, and really it's, again, some of this orangey, beautiful orangey color, but I'm also going to drop in a bit of red, really dilute sort of red to get in, yeah, just I guess in the light area on the horizon there where the, yeah, just a little bit lighter. Okay. It's this kind of sunset scene, beautiful, and recreating that is always a good thing. It's always good fun. So bring across like that. Some of it is going to mix back into the buildings. Don't worry about that. Just leave them. And you might also get some areas of white that's left on the paper. Also leave that. Don't try to fight against it. Work with it. There's a level of unexpectedness and lack of control at times. You can control parts of it, but some parts you just got to let it pan out. I was writing some little article I'm going to post soon just on that, kind of dealing with unexpected mishaps and things in watercolors. And anyway, so I'm going up, bringing this up a little bit, and as we hit the top section, this is where I'm going to start putting in a bit of cerulean. Yeah, nice little cerulean. If you got some turquoise, a bit of turquoise as well, that would be good. But I'm actually going to use cerulean, and we'll keep this quite light too. Okay, some of this will blend downwards. Just drop it in like that. Okay, just drop it in nicely there. You want it to be pretty wet in there as well. Drop that in. Some people like to leave dry areas in the sky to get in kind of like clouds and stuff like that. I'm just going to color most of it in actually, like that. And now what you can hopefully get is like a kind of mixing going through the whole scene. So it's kind of a, see, this is quite granulating, this cerulean blue. So I want to make it a little darker up the top, perhaps, like that. There. All right, and I'm not going to touch that anymore as I go back into it like this. All right, will not touch it. Just get rid of some of these bubbles or whatever on there. Another thing you can do at this stage, if you want to get in some clouds, like a cloud shape, you can drop something up the top in there as well. So here's a little example. I might pick up a bit of neutral tint and a little purple. And perhaps I'm just going to do it, but you might want to drop it in kind of like that. That can get in a little cloud-like shape there. Little one here at the bottom, near the bottom there. And while the paint's still wet, it just allows you to do this sort of thing without much effort at all. Don't overdo it though. I think that's probably a bit too much even. Hey, it's just a bit of squiggle and have you like that. Squiggling around. Righto. Let's continue on. I don't want to play around that top area all too much. If you do decide to put in clouds though, try to remember that sometimes these little clouds here further down do help. So little ones, just little as they get smaller near the horizon line, that also helps create a sense of depth. I know it looks very, very subtle, but it helps. This area of the sky has to be very light, so don't try to darken it all too much. So we're going to move all the way down the page now, and what we have to do is kind of mirror the sky a little bit. And conveniently, we have left some of this area wet, which allows me to carry this down the page. I'm also cutting around the boats because I want them to be appearing, I want them to appear a little more blue, a bit cooler. Okay, so actually there in the water, here, oh, there. Just as long as it's a little warm, and you're using the same colors in the sky to do this as well. Okay, you go, just drop it in like that. There, okay, cut around these poles here in the water. Bring that down the page like this. We cut around pretty much most of the boats already. And as we move down the page, what you want to do is try to darken a bit too. Okay, because if you, as we move into the foreground, you'll find that basically everything starts to darken down a little bit more. So it does help. Do I have a larger brush? Mop brush here. I'm just going to shortcut this larger mop brush. So I'm not spending all too much time strokes. Big mop brush, bring that down here. Plastic. I'm going to drop in a bit of neutral tint, and a little bit of purple as well. Got this color called Imperial Purple, which I did a little review on. I love this color because it's just amazing granulating sort of color. Maybe a little bit of ultramarine as well through the base there. Let's pick that up, drop that in. Get to the base. I'm not really trying to make it darker, and I'm trying to fade out some of that purple and fade out a little bit of the orange as well. Right. Wet this whole area down a little like that. Fantastic. I'll also now pick up the number 10 round brush. Number 10 round brush. And this is where you want to be like a little bit looser. So you want to just start painting, dropping in some paint, darker paint in here. You have to make sure, this is pretty crucial, you have to make sure that the paint that you're dropping in at this stage is of a thicker consistency of what you put into the water. Otherwise, you're going to get these blooms. So I'll just demonstrate quickly. Now, we've got this orange and what have you. If I pick up a bit of ultramarine, okay, and I'm just mixing that up. Let's mix a bit of purple in there, a little bit of purple, maybe a little bit of neutral tint too, tint in there, and drop in a bit like that. Notice how it doesn't really mix, spread all that much. That's kind of what we want. Um, we don't want too much water into this area, otherwise it's going to bloom and create all kinds of weird sort of unexpected effects. So darken down the base, a bit of brown as well. I've got a little bit of this little brown color. Burnt umber. Yeah, and this is all just wet into wet. As we go up as well, one thing to remember is that these little waves get smaller and lighter, so it's a good practice to just reduce the size of those waves, little ripples. That put a few in over here as well. Okay, I'm going to look at it from a distance. I think that looks all right. It can be tempting to keep overdoing things. I'm also trying to do this one a little bit quicker as well. I'm standing up. Always good to just take a little step back, see if it makes sense. I do think there should be a little bit more darkness here at the front. So I'm gonna just do little squiggles and bits and pieces here. Okay. Righto. Great. Let's leave that for now. Now I'm going to go into the boats and start putting in some colors in here. I've got some blue, a little bit of ultramarine, and I'm just going to drop that straight in to the boats. Okay, like create a bit of contrast, and also I'm going to pick up a little bit of that duller sort of paint on the palette as well here. Just a mixture of neutral tint and a bit of purple, blue. Drop that in. Okay, we do have some more here as well. And you will get some mixing. Some of this will carry downwards also, but don't worry. Okay, like that. I'm not also leaving some areas where it can perhaps mix in with the water. Little bits of white on the paper too. Bit interesting. That there's another one here, the distance, something like that. One in the background there, perhaps. Okay, and of course we've got this larger boat right in the center, which I'll use a bit more vibrant blue. Yeah, interesting actually. There are some. It's kind of like this warm color on that right hand side of it. That there are little highlights in there. Well, getting this blue running roughly side like that, and in a bit there. Stick. Okay, almost done. Might add in a little brown over the top of this. Oh, it's just a little splash of color there. Get rid of that white paper, but it's not super crucial. It would be good to get a bit of color through there. Okay, that's about it. So we'll leave this to dry, and I'm going to come back in just a moment, dry this off with a hairdryer, and then we'll finish it off, get into all the remaining shadows, and call it a day. Okay. I will check the chats as well, so I'll give you a bit of time to catch up if you're watching along, or if you have questions as well. Certainly put them in the chats. I've got all this. Somehow I've got all this paint on my hand. My brush. It's just a mess. Every time I paint, I don't know how I end up with all this mess. But it's okay. I'll clean up later. I'll pause the audio for a bit though while I dry this. Okay, that didn't take too long. It's a very warm day today over in Melbourne, so it didn't take too long at all. So we have basically done the most tricky part of the scene. Now, what we are going to do now is add in all the mid-tones and all the darkest tones in the painting. And you should have at the moment a scene that's similar to this in terms of most of this area at the back and through the middle is pretty light. Still, you should still be able to see the pencil marks through the paper. And that's a trick that takes a while to master. Just to know, you only need quite a light wash. It's almost, the color is still saturated enough to see, see through, but at the same time, yeah, you can obviously make out the pencil marks. And I've outlined the areas which I've put in, these bits of the building that I want to darken off more. Okay, I have for this part, I'm going to be using two different brushes. I'm going to be using a number 8 round brush, and then I'm going to be using number 6 round brush. So I'll give you a bit of time to grab out those materials, and I'm going to check the chats as well to see how we're doing. Nikki Hammond says, a little late. Let me go get my supplies. Hey, Nikki. No worries. We're almost like I would say about 3/4 of the way through this one. You should be good to go for the second one when I start that. So, and you can always watch the replay of this as well. So that is all good. Um, Fantastic. Edna says, just wonder if you don't really stretch your paper before placing your sketch, or do you wet the back of the watercolor a bit? No, I don't stretch my paper at all. I've never stretched it. I don't think it's necessary. You just need to tape it down in the corners, or you can sticky tape. You've got double-sided tape. You can tape it down somewhere. Um, in my sketchbook, I don't even tape or anything. I just paint directly onto the paper. Now, it might annoy you that it buckles and things like that. It can be tricky. Once you dry it, it does buckle a little bit, but then you can sort of fold it back and bend it a little bit back into place, and then it looks fine. Especially afterwards, when you finish, a lot of people get worried because the painting is kind of like all warped and that kind of thing. All I do is that I just dry it off, and then I place it upside down on a desk, and then I put a bunch of books on top, just something heavy on top, leave it for a day, and then it completely flattens out. It's fantastic. Just saves time, so then you're not doing something you don't need to do. Because it's obviously when you're painting, sometimes the mental process of thinking, geez, I've got all this stuff, get ready, I've got to grab my brushes, I've got to get my paints, I've got to clear my table, I've got to find a reference. And by the time you're thinking, oh, I've got to stretch my paper as well, that's just another thing. So I want to try to make it as easy as possible for myself and for you guys as well. So that's a little tip that I have. Don't stretch it, don't need to. Pancake says, wonderful first wash and great tutorial. Thank you. And let's see how we go with the second one. Hey, Pancake's just asking what brand of colors, please. So these ones are more, most of them are Daniel Smith colors. I do also have a bunch of Art Spectrum colors in here, which are basically an Australian brand. They're a bit better priced here in Australia as well. So I use those. I do have some Holbein paints as well here in the corner. That's a Holbein neutral tint for no particular reason. But yeah, I think in terms of paints, I kind of class them in terms of granulating or non-granulating paints. So a lot of suppliers have different names for their paints and different marketing strategies. So they try to market them, uh, more appealing ways here and there. But at the end of the day, if we look at the pigments on the back of the paint tube, it tells you like the exact pigment, PB21 or something like that. So they all use the same pigments, all these manufacturers. So if it's an artist grade paint, you'll be completely fine. Now, if you don't have an artist grade paint, just use what you have. I didn't use that when I started. I had a little set, little $10 watercolor set when I began. So let's continue, guys, and I'm hoping we can be finished in about 15 minutes with this one. So let's continue. I'm going to start again by putting in darker areas on this scene. Where is the, just grab reference photo, it's disappeared on me. enlarge that up. And number 6 round brush. This is a new one that I picked out. The other ones just keep wearing out so quickly. It's kind of like my detailing brush, so we'll be able to go into the top of that dome more. So I'm going to pick out, yeah, I think I'll just use some of this purplish color mixed with a bit of the neutral tint here. If also some of the ultramarine. I love ultramarine mixed with raw umber or a bit of got this color called goethite as well, which is a granulating browny kind of color. I think it's actually called brown ochre. Some manufacturers just call it brown ochre. Okay, so a bit of like a warmer gray, and then over on this side, like a cooler gray. All right, let's go in. I'm gonna go straight into it, guys. Top of that dome, like that, and we're gonna be a little bit more careful with this. Okay, that. The proportion of paint I'd say I'm using here is about 50% paint, 50% water. Okay, there's a bit. Yeah, you got one chance to do this, just to really go through, draw out some of these windows and areas, lighter sections of the dome. Go up and just add a bit more color, a bit more darkness up there. Okay. Sometimes it looks better. Just make it a bit more rough. So good. Okay, so needs to be more kind of around the oops. Stick. I'm going to go through and just a bit of a softer color on that right hand side so that we have area of a kind of warmer color on that right hand side. For the rest of it, I'm just going to go straight in, just drop in that color there. You know, you're kind of just leaving the right hand side of the buildings a bit of light on it. Okay. I like to soften the edges so that it kind of like transitions from cool to lighter sort of tones. This is going to be dark in here. Again, I need some more of this color. It's brown and blue mixed together. Kind of looks a bit like a rusty sort of color. I like it. It's the granulation is quite beautiful, and yeah, that. Remember to cut around this section because there's some light in there. So this square that we drew out before, remember? And we're going to continue on. This, okay, a little bit of light there. Let's have a look on top here. There's going to be some darkness. And I did say I was going to try to exaggerate some areas of light, so add some more in. Like for example, this tower here in the back. I'm going to bring this down, that kind of into the edge of this building, and then I'll just leave the right-hand side of it like that. That we've got a bit of light there. There's also some areas of the tower here. Let's just put in little marks here on top. Notice I'm holding the brush further down, which allows me to get some control, some fine control over some of this stuff. Okay. It's gonna be tricky. A little bit tricky. Push through it. Good. There is a little other tower kind of connecting this one here as well. So I'm going to in a little bit of color back there and join that, bring that further down like that. Soften this section off a bit. So we've lost some of that light. And again, what you can do is just use a tissue to lift off. Or if you've got a paper towel or something, that also works pretty well. Just lift off like that. Right hand side. So we've got a bit of a transition between this warm and cool there. Okay. Phew, now that's like the most tricky bit. Now, really for the next parts, it's just basically adding in the rest of the darks. And of course, we have this area here, which kind of has this bits of light bouncing off the, call it the pillars. So a little bit of that, leaving some of that there as well. But, okay, good idea. Behind, of course, you might have some little bits of these statues and form a negatively painted shape around that area like that. Okay, move further downwards. Don't be afraid to use some dry brush as well, like this, so that you might have segments that are painted a little bit more sharply than others, and others that just kind of skip over the paper, imply perhaps a bit of light in there. Okay. But we're simplifying these buildings to make them kind of one color. Well, mostly one color anyway. More mix plastic. I'm going to start doing these buildings on that right hand side. So down base, that, there, there, there. What have we got here? This side. We've got to be a bit careful here because again, we've got this area of light. If you look at this right hand side of that building, that's got a fair bit of light there. So just want to be careful there. What am I doing here? That's good. So there, and then this building even has some light on there as well. So I'm going to just leave that in. Bits there. Finish it off like that. Top of the building has bits of darkness in there as well. Just drop in some of that darkness to outline the rooftops like that. Good. Let's move on to that left-hand side now. And remember, we have done some little work here again by leaving out the light. The 1, 2, 3, 3 bits of light there. So cut around the ends of that. Where is my just a bit of brown with the ultramarine? Yeah, gone too high with that building, but no problem. Yeah, roughly still around the same spot. Plastic. Just cutting around some of these wooden poles as well. So I'm just hoping I can leave in a little light on those poles later. We're going to go through them in a very dark color, but little light on them wouldn't hurt. Okay. Bring this down into the base of the, on into that gondola. Okay, into that base. There, what else do we have? Yeah, again, remember just leaving out the areas of light. And the more effort you put into just, I guess, detailing with the brush, the more realistic it will look. I'm just trying to do this pretty quickly. Not really my style anyway to spend too much time telling everything. I just like to get in the main impression of what I think is happening in there. Okay, good. Bit of section here in the background there. But if you notice, I mean, all of it is pretty much just that same kind of color. Okay, it moves down into the water. Good. So if you got up to this stage, we're at a good stage. Okay. Just trying to dry that bit off that right hand side of the dome as well. Keeps kind of creeping back in. Let's go ahead and put in some of the shadows on the ground. I'm going through this blue and brown mix so quickly. It's just ultramarine plus a bit of burnt umber. Gets you a really nice dark color. And we're going to do all the shadows, reflections below, hopefully in just one go. I'm really trying to mix up a good amount of this. I love this new palette that I've got. It makes it so much easier to mix things. Okay, now the boat. Let's get in a little bit of this reflection. Now, it's going to be kind of the opposite of the actual boat itself. So in terms of like you see the boat kind of coming out that way, the reflection is going to come out in that opposite sort of way like this. There, and then we're going to have some areas going down the page. Use some more neutral tint in there. I just need some more paint in here. Quite dark. A lot of it as well. Okay, good. There. Movement in the water. Bit of that. Yeah, good. This side here, just get the base there. Side of that. We're going towards the right, and then I'm going to go this larger shape. If I have a larger brush, this is going to stand up actually might be easier. Cool. A bit of detailing in that gondola just at the top there, maybe on the base of this one here in the background too. This one here, just a little connect a bit like that. Good, good, good. We've also got these poles and things as well. So I'll show you how we're going to get these in. Getting bits of green on my palette. So we just pick up a bit of the blue, bit of the brown, mix them together. And this has to be really dark. Okay. This coming down the page. Mainly brown though. There. Come down to the base. Do this one as well, like that. This one here. Just a few little quick brush strokes. This one here. We've of course got other ones here in the background, smaller one. That I'm not fussed of it kind of mixing into the buildings as well. Be more interesting. Get a little mixing and things going on. And then of course the reflection of them, which I will just quickly do. We want to make sure that they mirror this shape as well. So kind of just going like this. Okay. That connect it on there. One kind of comes out maybe like on this angle like that. There. This is more like this angle. This one here, a little bit on this kind of angle, like that. Here on this opposite angle there. Okay, and running through all this stuff, we've also got other little quick marks through the water, like this little, just little, almost like dry brush marks running through the water. Okay, so we've got sharp waves and we've got soft waves in the background. I think V was asking about this. You know, got a combination of sharp and sort of softer areas. Okay, so that's a really kind of quick way to do it. Remember, as you go back into the background, you just make those a little bit more softer and lighter. Okay. Excellent. We are just about done. Almost done. We've just got to get in a few large little bits and pieces, like maybe the figures, a little bit of the buildings, a little detailing in those in those buildings. I'll dry it off very quickly and then we'll finish it off. Okay, we're just about there, guys. So I am going to go through, put in the final finishing touches, and this can normally take quite a while, but I'm going to speed this up. Okay, we need some windows. We just need a little bit of detail in some of these areas. So this gondola as well is actually not this color. It's kind of like a darker color. And try to put in a bit of detailing for the gondola, like sharper shape there. And you notice as well, when you have objects that are really far off in the distance, they don't have much of a reflection. They just might have a line underneath that, but they don't really have much of a reflection. Only objects that are closer can see that. Great. Put in a bit of color in there. Find that a bit more. And now time to put in the darker sections. I'm going to use neutral tint, just a quick mixture of neutral tint here, make it easy. We've got things like, for example, this top section here of the dome. But you can do stuff like that. Put in a few little marks here and there. Yeah, you got these actual, I don't know what they're called, but just areas of the dome. That little bit of detailing. You kind of want to just dry off your brush a bit while you do this. So you're kind of using some of the neutral tint, dry that brush off, and then just go in and you kind of this touch and go type thing as well. You don't want to spend too much time trying to define a particular area. And if you got like a window or something like that, I just drop it in quickly like this. Makes it stick out less. Right in here, little bits and pieces in here. There's like a little archway or something, window archway there. This section here is kind of like a darker opening of that area. There you've got a little bit more definition here. There's kind of this trunk. So you're picking out bits and pieces that you yourself want to emphasize. There's no kind of right or wrong way to do this. There, the window, bottom of that dome, emphasize that a bit more like that. A little bit there for the top of that dome. There's a section for that part of the tower there. Yeah. Okay. What else have we got? We've got little windows and things here on the base. We've got little windows on these buildings here in the back too, so we can pop on some of those. We've also got some sides of the buildings in the sunlight or lined up. There's some here too. Very little sections like that. Just dry that brush off and go in, them in. That more darkness perhaps at the building and the top of this building here as well. Top sections of the building there. Just picking out windows, just looking, trying to find some areas to draw out and create that. Yeah. You can really spend a lot of time doing this. I'm obviously just trying to do this a lot quicker. uh, depending on the time that you have available. It's also why I think perhaps in some of the future lives that I'll do, I will try to, I want to just reduce it down to just one scene per session because I do feel at times I'm rushing some of these, but at the end of the day as well, I think you guys get some good value out of it. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you prefer having maybe like doing two or just doing one per session? And do you have any topics that you'd want me to cover? Any type of scenes or type of it could be portraiture or something like that. I know someone requested that, and I'm looking into doing one of those as well. So these are just some birds I'm putting in. But yeah, like I was saying, it's good to know what you guys would like to see. Because I know I do a lot of landscape type stuff, and you're probably watching because of that. But I'm also not sure whether you want to learn some other stuff too. Portraiture is very tricky, but it's something that gets requested quite often, and I know a bit about it, so cover some of those topics as well. Looking good. Put in the figures. There's just a quick. Yeah, here's someone sitting in there. Someone sitting in here. In the gondola. Okay. Okay. I think there's really anything else I want to add to this one. It's a pretty simple scene in terms of from the reference picture. I've reduced it down a lot, but the techniques that I'm showing you, they can apply for pretty much any scene that you're trying to do. And one of the good things as well is just being able to get some of the practice, uh, practice with the techniques like wet and wet technique with the playing around with darker and lighter shapes, refining and adding in smaller bits and pieces in there, kind of thing. Uh, hmm, hmm. I think that's it. I think I'm going to take off this paper, how it has turned out. That has roughly taken how long? About an hour and a little bit. So I think that's turned out okay. Yeah, let me know what you think. And I also like these bits of light that I managed to preserve on the buildings. I think that's worked out quite nicely. The sky as well, these little soft reflections and the sharper reflections in the water as well. Turned out quite well. Have a look through comments. Ellen says, I'd like to do some really colorful landscape slash buildings, like we discussed on Facebook. We said Vegas or Tokyo or Times Square would be good subjects. Yeah, I actually downloaded a whole bunch of photos of Vegas, like some nighttime Vegas scenes. So, uh, yeah, I think that'd be a good one, like a Tokyo or Vegas like scene. I did try to do a New York one. That was uploaded that to YouTube. I don't know if you've seen that one, Ellen, but I did it in a kind of graphic style. But perhaps if we do another one live, it will be good. And Connie's asking, "Are you doing another?" Yes, yes, we're going to do another. Yes. Yeah. I'm a bit drowsy from all this, from that hay fever tablet. Weirdly, but I am quite excited to do this one because I have done a sketch of this before, but not a really large one. So I think having a larger sort of a scene will just allow me to free my brushstrokes up a bit more. and yeah, free the brush strokes up a bit more. Do it in a similar style to this. And it's interesting trying to figure out the light in this second one as well. I'm going to change the image on the screen so that some of you can see. Okay, so the difficulty in this next scene is it's trying to find the source of light and the darkness in this scene. And you have the reference picture up, you see, like, kind of zooming. If you zoom into it, you see what I mean by that. It's quite tricky because we've got, look, a lot of the buildings I'm going to try to reduce down to one big shape. The water has these kind of reflected, the buildings reflect into the water, but that's essentially one of the lightest areas of the scene. The back end of the water kind of coming in forwards to the footpath. The buildings on the right hand side, if you look at the roof, the buildings on the bottom right hand side, the roof has a kind of like reflected light on them, buildings background on the right. So I want to capture some of that light, but pretty much on the left, I think I'm just going to reduce that all down into one big shape and that tower. But the perspective is interesting. We've got an aerial perspective. It's something new. I don't think we've done one of these before, but I'll break down the drawing for you and help you to understand the differences in drawing from this type of perspective. Like the horizon line is higher up compared to something like this where it's eye level, a little bit more straightforward. So let's go ahead and continue on. Shanolan says, I'm here. I just ain't going to be texting a lot, trying to paint home. Not a problem, Shanolan. Thank you for being here anyway. And it's I really always appreciate you sharing my videos, Shanolan. Every time they finish, I see you sharing them around. That really helps me out, get out to more people. So appreciate that. Uh, let's have a look. If there are some more questions on Facebook, I'm going to answer them. I'm going to address them real quickly. There is Chris Kane. This is my first time, Darren. Great job. The painting looks wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I hope you did okay with your version. And we have a group as well on Facebook, facebook.com/group/watercolor mentor, and you can upload it there. And we've got a little community there, and people will comment and help to sort of pump each other up. It's a great little place to find some inspiration and to you get some motivation to paint. So Edna says, wonderful. Thank you, Edna. Madonna says, this is my first time too. Love your techniques. Thank you, Madonna. And Natalie says, one per session. That way we don't feel like you are rushing to get through the second one. Yeah, sometimes it's okay. I find like actually most times I can get through it, but in the morning, I'm not really much of a morning person. So I can be a little bit tired at times. But the general process that I follow is certainly applicable. And on my own, if I'm just painting, I'll probably take nowadays I spend almost 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours if I'm doing a painting of this size. And most of that time is spent on little detailings. So you got, what's an example like this one that I did last week? Yeah, this kind of boat scene. I spent not all too much time drawing, and in the painting, I spent so much time around this area of the boat and preserving that area of the of the reflection in the water. So some parts of the painting can disproportionately consume more of your time. Vicky says, "Oh, to have your talent." Thanks, Vicky. And you should see some of my paintings from 6 years ago. You'll be very surprised. It's just no one's look. I know some people are born with great talent, but a lot of artists just practice constantly, and that's how I do it. I just push through it. Sometimes I don't even want to paint, but I just do it. Halfway through, I'm thinking, hey, I actually kind of enjoy this. So don't wait till the inspiration or the motivation to kind of hit you. Just get painting, be consistent with it, and over a long period of time, very long period of time, you'll certainly get better. Connie's asking, can I save to do later? Yeah, you can watch it later. The recording's available. Madonna. So yeah, you can watch it on YouTube or you can watch it here on Facebook. And Sandy's saying one per session. How about anything with lights, carnival scenes? Yeah, that's something that Ellen was saying as well, Ellen Whitney, about, yeah, just like a more bright, vibrant sort of scene. Let me just, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write that down in my notebook now so that I just remember to do something like that for my next one. So, escape. Some examples as well. If you can think of any cities that you want to do, I just go and Google and find some photos and pick out one that that looks good and stick with that. So let's. I think there's a few more pieces in here. Wonderful session. Thank you, Paincash, and more people in here as well. Yeah, a lot of people saying like one per session is good. I think done two because I know some people jump in at a future point and they miss the first one, or you might want a bit more content. So I try to just since I'm streaming live, I try to give out as much as I can. And for those people who like to watch a bit longer, they can. But if it's too much, you can do one or the other. But for myself, I think personally, I'm leaning more towards just doing one. Sometimes I get worried. One doesn't turn out well. At least the second one turns out better, right? So but I'm telling you to lean towards that. Few suggestions here from everyone, like San Francisco, Paris, Italy, Vegas, Greece. All great, all great suggestions. Thank you, everyone. Putting these, typing these out so that we can add them to the list of things to do. Ellen says Tokyo. Yeah, I have some good Tokyo ones, and I think they'd suit line and wash a lot better as well. Righto, everybody. So um, let's go ahead and get started on this next one. And the drawing for this one as well, because it's going to be a little tricky. But let's see if we can simplify this down for you. So have that reference picture up on the screen. One of the first things you'll notice, the horizon line, it's really, really far out the back. It's kind of out, it's all the way out here. Quarter of the way. So if we find the halfway page, halfway section of the page, which is like here, halfway point, and we divide this into half, roughly, it's kind of just below the quarter point. So it's like about here, I'd say. Not much sky at all. So just draw a line going all the way across like that. You can draw the line in like segments. Can't draw the whole thing in one go. I tend to do that, which makes things a bit easier. So that's the horizon line. The other part that we're going to look at, the more simplified part, is the center. Again, we've got this kind of the canal running through, and it starts off around about here, comes in a little bit at the back, and then it goes directly down the page. This hits the center there, roughly that center part of the page. This left-hand side, perhaps like this, yeah, runs all the way towards the back. Remember this right-hand side of the canal, that part where it hits the pavement, roughly in the center of the page. You look at the reference photo. Look, this kind of gets a bit smaller, thinner at the back. Disappears off. So simplifying it down, yeah, that's about where we want it to be. Okay, now I'm going to look what is certainly the easiest part that we can draw. I do like these buildings here. I think we'll start with these buildings here on the left-hand side. I'm gonna start by going with the tower, the most obvious part, and it's almost like in the center of the page. So we can mark out roughly, not like in this, like the center is here, but it's kind of left center, something like that. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it in, draw it up, and we want to also focus on where does it end on the paper. It actually ends quite far up the page, but I want to reduce it down because it's always good to have a bit more space at the top of the page. Okay, otherwise everything just looks kind of cramped up too much in there. So, here's that tower. You can see just like a triangle on top. Just think of it that way, as a triangle on top, and then you've got these three kind of window areas like that. There, draw that in a bit there, and the side of the building as well. Let me just shift these over a bit more to the left. That the side of that tower, it's actually very subtle. Just see a little edge of it, like barely see it, but it certainly is there. Certainly is there. So draw that down. And the left hand side, I'm going to just bring this down here. Fantastic. Okay, so from this point, we can start drawing in the other buildings. Okay, so we know that there's another building that starts roughly here. It's kind of, we divide it, so where the horizon line is, we look at it, kind of bisects the building here, cuts through the building here. And about halfway, a little bit lower than halfway, is where this other building here starts. Okay, so that's where I'm going to begin putting in this other one. And we'll simplify it. It goes all the way across here. But the rooftop actually out like this. Okay, and it comes down. That's like the side of the building that is near to the canal. This is the part of the roof. Obviously, got these sort of little smaller segments on the roof like that. It's kind of like a little house, like a little attic or something on top there. Just putting it in there. Okay, but the main thing is the building where it hits the side of the canal. Gotta follow that canal, and that's kind of part of the perspective as well. So it helps. Got this building that kind of cuts halfway through, the one in front there. Again, following that perspective like this, there. Going on here, it's kind of there, and then it out to the front. But we've got more bits and pieces here. We've got like kind of chimneys or something, but the rest of it is just kind of trees. There, we have got some building here in the front. I think let's try to put it in. I'm thinking, kind of tempted to just cut it out later though. I don't know if that's going to get in the way, but we can always make that decision a little later. Okay. That might be okay actually, because like just having a bit of an interruption to that darkness, a bit of light in here, right? And we've got these stuff here. Okay. The main thing is that with these ones near to the canal, got to really try to focus a bit more on drawing these ones in. Okay, I'm trying to draw a bit darker over the top as well, guys. I hope that kind of helps so that you can see my line marks, the page, just clearer, show through. Fantastic. Couple of sections. Just draw this part of that tower there. There's a little bit in there. Let's go ahead and keep doing this building. This kind of separates out there. Rooftop, that, that. The front part of this rooftop sticks out. That, there, that. Okay, that's something. That's the roof that it's kind of sitting on. Attic, I think. Window or something. Yeah. Okay, this one to the left. Let's draw in that little roof there. And, there's windows and stuff beneath. You can see it's kind of tricky, but they're all here. These little windows. That drawing some of them in here. couple more here. Just mainly outlining them, guys. We don't have to make them exact. Just kind of where you often have to change things around as well. Sometimes the composition doesn't look so good from the photograph, and it helps to just change it to whatever you feel looks better. This one down actually. Oops, this should be for the side of the bit. Yeah, there we go. Better, and that's part of the tower. That. So that makes it a bit easier for you to see. Simplifying it down. A bit here. There's a building here running behind. As we get further back, the buildings start to recede and become less detailed, less apparent. This is a good thing, especially for when we're drawing. We don't have to detail all too much. It all just becomes a bit of a blur at the back, and then you can just see some rooftops, things like that, something sticking out of the sky there. Over on this side, there's some kind of like tower, it looks like, sticks out of the sky. Something like that in the distance there. But let's finish off this part first. There is a side of a house or something right here, there. It doesn't matter the right-hand side drawing, left-hand side drawing doesn't matter all that much because we're going to simplify that down. I'm going to paint that all. I essentially just paint it all in one go. I don't know what this is. It looks like a big cathedral or something like that. Very large building. When you draw these buildings, look at them as shapes. It's like a trapezoid. I just look at that as a shape. It's the only way to kind of do it. Squares, rectangles. Otherwise, you get all bogged down in drawing the actual building. But if you draw the shape, it will look like the building, like whatever you're trying to draw. Really, just makes it simpler. And there's another like section of it that runs up the top like that, comes down like roughly here, and this sort of runs over and finishes off getting that side of the tower. Okay, and look, I mean, there's all kinds of bits and pieces on. Not important at all. Something here. It looks like a. I don't know. It looks like a. It's like a white house. Where thing there. I don't know. It's just like a white sort of house in construction or something. There's also a tower here. See that before? Little tower like that. Off in that distance there. Hard to see exactly. Too many of the details. Okay. Scribble in a bit like that, and we have working section of that left-hand side. And we're going to go in and do the right-hand side now. It's really important to spend time on this drawing. I'm already thinking, how am I going to paint this out by doing the drawing? And it's kind of like having a good blueprint for later. Okay. Easiest part we can probably do is this section here, this large building. It finishes, I have to do it in relation to this one. The large one, it kind of like starts around where this rooftop finishes or just below. So I can just go in like this. Let's try, yeah. Oops, not as wide. Okay. Triangle. The base, just running down. This. There we go. And there we have it. We've got the side of the building. Notice it kind of gets a bit wider. It comes out to the bottom as well. Big building here. Bottom, there's kind of like a fence and darkness here, and there's like a tree or something here. And that's a footpath, of course. Also start getting in the other stuff, the other house or something here, there. Simplify them down. That just the rooftops. That's all you're looking at them, just like kind of a couple of rectangles just connected up like that. There, another one. There, oops. That, another one. This side is a bit wonky. I'll mix it up like that. Okay. More time you spend on the drawing, the better, more accurate it looks. So that's the side of the building. Where does it end? Ends kind of ends like actually. Yeah, there's actually a edge of this comes down a bit. Just yeah, there is a little kind of edge to this building. It's very, very subtle, but there is a little edge to it there. It interacts and stops. Yeah, a huge deal. I think just getting in the rooftops is more important. There's a courtyard here that we can start drawing from, and looking again in reference to these ones that we've drawn in, we can go ahead and draw in the right hand side. So we know for the second rooftop there is some kind of building here. Yeah. Yeah. House or something like that. There. Bring that down. At the bottom there's some kind of like hedge. That like a bush or some kind of hedge. There, it's darker. Right hand side, start drawing in another part of this house. There, that kind of runs over towards the back as like a section like that. I'm going to simplify this one. It's like this. Well, that there's another kind of tree or bush coming in from the side there. This courtyard, it's kind of got a path that runs all the way down like this. Yeah. Yeah. Circular pattern or whatever. A bird's eye view, I suppose. Stuff going on. Good. So really now, a few more things you need to do. Small details out the back, and then the bridge, a couple of the bridges here imply well. So I mean, actually here we could probably just start off there, just connect it up, create that bridge towards the other side. That fantastic. There's a little shadow underneath that section. There are some gondolas here, and I just like to put them in this kind of shape, sharp shape at the front, and then at the back it's kind of just simplify that. Yeah, a couple of gondolas running through. And where I'm talking about the reflections and the lights in the water, what I was mentioning before is here. Notice this building here. There's a section that just runs all the way down. So we can just mark out the basic line of where the reflection will be. That will be good for later when I go in with the watercolors, just to remind myself not to go over on this side. This is going to be all light, that side. The rest of this, again, it's just, we're going to pick out some shapes and draw in some buildings that we want to put in. None of it is really 100% necessary at the back. It's more the stuff in the foreground that's noticed a lot more. That could be a bit of a rooftop, bit of a building here. What am I doing? Oh, maybe I'll just increase that building size there. That can be a roof here. Another rooftop here that sort of intersects with that one there, and we got another building here in the background. Simplify, just a rectangle. And what have we got on its edge? That, and then building there. Okay, something like that. The good thing about the background ones is that, yeah, we don't need all that much detail. Certainly imply more than state exactly what is in that scene. Yeah. The rooftops, I think, are the most tricky bits to get in. Once you have the rooftops in, the rest of the building kind of you can put in. So you place it in. So there, this is like the base of the building actually. Got a large kind of rooftop there, there. It's overlapping shapes on the sides of these buildings just going off into the distance like that. Like quite tricky. Another bridge here. Small bridge. I'm not going to detail all too much of that. It's just going to be a little connector that running across. This actually runs more like this. Yeah. Good. I think I need to draw the canal out a bit more so that I don't get used later where it begins. Okay, good. Some more little details here. I mean, it's just like one, just drawing like kind of boxes and stuff. Some of them kind of go up into the air. Some rooftops like this. That's all I'm going to do for some of these, just little rooftop areas. Ones here in the distance. Leave that kind of section kind of lighter, the lighter color. Help later on. I think that's good now for the drawing. I hope you guys are doing okay. Let me just check in the chats. Let me have a look at the chats. And stick. I don't think we've got anything else. We've still got quite a few people watching on Facebook, on YouTube. Well, Cinque Terre, Sandy saying Cinque Terre. That is something I've done a couple of times. You can look at some of my previous videos, like my previous live videos. I think it might have been live 16 or 17 that I did. And I did 3 scenes, and one of them was Cinque Terre. So you'll like that one. It's kind of similar to how I did these ones, but a little more detailed. Fantastic. Sandy's asking, when you do one, can you teach us detail techniques? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think detailing is it's just basically spending more time on the drawing and breaking down the larger shapes into smaller shapes. So when we talk about, say, a building like this, that's pretty simple. The drawing is pretty simple, right? And to detail it is just picking out smaller shapes in there. You might notice, oh, there's little tiles that run in this way, and then you can draw in the tiles, or underneath the roof, there's actually another gutter or something there. You can draw in those, or there's like, a window here or something. So it's just picking out, certainly just picking out extra smaller shapes in there and spending time doing it. Takes a long time to detail. So often that can be a whole lot of the actual painting. Righto, everyone. And Marianne also asked, do you have the PDF for the drawings? I don't have a PDF, no, but you could probably pause the video afterwards, take a screenshot, sharpen it up and print it out. But I do have the tracing templates available, Marianne. If you look at the pinned comment, you can have a look, and it's actually got the it's there. It's in the discussion section. So I kind of used a program to convert it into a little drawing to help some of you guys out. So let's start with the painting, everyone. And I've got a number, again, that number 10 round brush. And I'm going to go straight in and do the buildings and the light. I always love to do the light first, and I think it's a great place to start because, well, it allows you to basically paint most of the scene. Okay, so I'm using some of this quinacridone burnt orange. I've also got some yellow ochre. I don't want the light to be too obvious, too kind of bright and vibrant. So this is why I'm going to go in firstly with this color. A little bit of the burnt orange is certainly a little bit more vibrant, but mixing that with the yellow ochre, so that it kind of granulates out. They're both granulating colors, believe it or not, but the yellow ochre kind of just mellows out that color a bit more. So yeah, so again, let's go in the back end like that. Just trying to put in some colors. I'll put in a bit of more vibrant orange here for the base of this building. Something like that. You can already see the vibrancy just start to pop out more there. Other parts of the buildings here on the right, let's put in some more of this yellow ochre. You really can't go wrong here, because a lot of this is just the lighter tones, and we'll go over the top of these anyway with another color, the rooftops, some of the windows, that type of thing. Well, so yeah, as long as you just get a nice wash of color running through here, nice sort of warm colors, we'll be all good. I do have a bit of this buff titanium as well, which I've been using lately, and it just kind of dulls down also some of the colors here. And I'm hoping also I can put a little bit of blue here into the background, just cool it off a bit. It will also help to push back these buildings. But one of the big things is just, lightening your colors a fair bit as you go to the back. That makes certainly like a real big difference. So they're less saturated. The back, just color them in, kind of leaving some white areas here and there. It's rooftop. That. The 𝗣𝗓𝗢𝗡 orange and not 𝗣𝗓𝗡𝗡 orange, it's quinacridone orange. That building, this tower is actually like this milky sort of color. So let's put in some of that like there. There we go, just indication. All of these buildings as well. Again, it's kind of milky sort of color, or they're just white in general. So we can even just leave them. We don't need to color everything. Okay. Moving down to the left-hand side here, I'm really starting to notice that there is a kind of obviously there's some warmth below some of these buildings. There's some nice orangey sort of colors, or some yellowy sort of colors down the page. But this footpath then starts to turn darker. And just pick up a bit of neutral tint and drop that in here. Basically a cool down neutral tint. Just drop that in here while, because I want to, where I can, I like to encourage a bit of mixing on the page and a bit of wet and wet sort of effect. So if I can do that at this point without stuffing up the mix too much, going over the mix or what have you, I always like to do that. Okay, so this is just a bit of leftover gray that I had before. But I will mix up a bit more. Ultramarine plus burnt umber. Makes a great, really good, really nice gray. This color. And also sometimes it pays to save your most vibrant colors for later, little highlights and things. If you go too vibrant now, you will then potentially miss out on getting in other areas of, you might want to bring out some really lovely blue in some areas, that kind of thing. And it just doesn't stick out that much because we've used too much vibrancy already. So I'm using just a bit of undersea green here to put in really just a light wash over the top of this section here at the base. Okay, I'm not trying to get in too much detail, just the colors over the top. Keep it pretty light. I have some of this sap green as well, which is a great vibrant green color. So that really sticks out. That, and we'll go into this area as well, preserving some of the footpaths and stuff like that. It will be good. Okay, there, yeah, bit of green here in the corner edge. Okay, fantastic. Dull this down a little. This is looking decent so far. And it may not look like much at the moment, but we'll persist, uh, bear with me and follow along, and I'm certain that it will be fine by the end of it. Because we're only just getting in colors at the moment. We're not trying to detail at all. Okay. Excellent. So some of these buildings, good idea to start doing now. I've got some brown and a bit of ultramarine. Mix them together. Let's try that one. Be dark. I'm just going to go and put in some of this tower. We'll have to just darken a little bit in some parts. Well, maybe a bit more blue in that area like that. Let's have a look. Yeah. I'm using quite a large brush as well, as you see, guys. So certainly possible. Just a bit careful, not. Yeah, that you're basically preserving some of those details. Okay. I think that looks okay. Run down now to another down this. Yeah. Way down. Yeah. Right. Some more warmer colors blending in on that right hand side. That. A bit more warmth. Sides of the buildings. I've got, again, some of this white color. It's basically buff titanium that I'm going to use as well. Some more of this darkness of the tower that extends down in here, but I'm going to kind of lost in that section. This will spread out. This building, again, it's pretty dark, but I do want this tower to stick out more, so I'm being careful to just let that edge dry a little first before I start putting in some colors for this building. Up. Okay. Again, we can still go over the top of it later, so it's not a deal if we do go into it. It blends and mixes a little bit. Fantastic. That I'm gonna leave that one white. This tower in the background is like got a bit of bluish tint. Some coolness in there. It's down. Putting these warm colors in the rooftop. A big, large sheet of paper actually does take quite a while to get this through. There we go. Some more colors here. Drop in a bit of this darker mix that I've got in here. I want to make these buildings a little darker. Front, that. Let's have a look. Building here. Yeah. Bit more warmth. Base of this one, just to change it up still. And then we've got this building here in the front, which I don't really want to leave it white. So I'll add in some of this buff titanium. And then in this section, let's add in some green. This is just some undersea green. It's a beautiful granulating color. I love this color. I've just got so obsessed with it lately. Because when it dries, it's just got this amazing separation. Just love. There you go. That's the edge, some of the bits and pieces in there. Great. Building as well. Base. more vibrancy. Okie dokie. Now, what we're going to do now is start into the sky. I'm going to make it, let's make it darker at the base. Purple. I reckon I'll use some purple. Bit of this dulled down color in here as well. Look, how's that? Drop that straight in. And around here, because we've got some buildings and that kind of thing, well, we can just cut around them by just leaving some white things in there as well. It's like this. Because there are white buildings in here in the background, but do them at the same time as this. Not really much here. Really. Cut around that tower background. That. There. Some of this stuff will already be dried, which is excellent. Really do much. Just cut around some of the buildings, leave some of those whites in there. Really trying to tower in there. It's tricky. Cutting around shapes. It's just got to be cooler in this area of the sky. So yeah, you can leave the edges of the. I sometimes just leave a little white edge on the sides of the buildings, and that helps to draw them out better, draw them out more. Okay. Excellent. Now, yeah, again, just go through, and if you think if anything you want to kind of darken up or whatever, just drop that in while you can. Certainly I see over this side that needs a little darkness, and this will dry off lighter as well. And here we go. I'm just going to bring this over like this, and a bit of cerulean as well. I add in a teeny bit of cerulean up the top like that. Yeah, and drag all this down and mix it up all together. Some of this, look, some of that tower is like going into the skies. A bit of it's mixing. Don't worry about it. Most of it should stay, but by this time it's mostly dry, so just dry it off that brush. That should be a nice little wash that we can keep later. So the main thing is we're keeping the bottom a little bit darker, the top a little bit lighter. Okay. Now comes just mimicking the sky. Cerulean blue. I'm just going to use some of this. Bring that down here. I don't want it as vibrant. Just, this is all coming down into the base here. They'll be joining on to some of the buildings, perhaps mixing in it. Not too fast. Perhaps dull it down as well with a bit of this purplish color in areas. Okay, that. But I'm just trying to preserve a bit of that, color, a bit of that blue. I think this area is a little too dark, so I'm just lifting off some paint. That. Okay. Sometimes you get areas of the paint that just pool. You need to just lift off in some areas like that, but also tap your brush on the page to get some kind of like speckled effects like that. Okay. Inconsistency. Let's move down the page again. Let's add some more cerulean with this dulled down kind of color. A lot of oxgale in this cerulean. It's moving around on the palette quite a lot. Okay, good. Keeping it light as trying to just, spending a lot of time trying to get that tone of it right. You want it to be almost the same tone as the sky. Okay, perhaps a little darker near the base. Okay, once that's done, I usually just let this dry for a little bit. But because I want to get this done, I'm going to just go straight into this area. And I like getting in some little dark, soft reflections. So kind of what we were talking about before. We did in the first painting where we got some little dark reflections in there. We're doing the same sort of thing, wet into wet. This, see the little bits of those little waves back. I don't want too many up here actually. Let's lift off some here. I want to keep that. I want to keep that back area nice and fresh looking. Better. It's kind of preserving a bit of light there. And then we've got some darkness here, some little wet in wet bits and pieces. Blend onto the buildings a bit. So we are done with the first part, guys. Let's dry this off. And once you've dried this off, we can continue on and get in all the darker shapes, bring this together, hopefully make it work. So one moment while I dry things off. How are you all doing? Let me know how you're going. Like Marion's watching, but 𝗣𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗢𝗡, how you going? 𝗣𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗢𝗡, you've been here before. I've seen you a few times. Thanks for joining. Good morning, Irene. Irene is on my my page as well, and good to see you. And yeah, are you painting along, or are you just watching? It is available afterwards as well, so don't worry if it. Don't worry if I'm going, if you feel I'm going too quick, or if you're worried that it may not be up later. It's going to be on. Look at that undersea green. Look at how it's just granulated out. And you've got even a bit here. The oranges that I've used as well, the quinacridone burnt orange, it granulates slightly near as well. And some areas here in the sky, we've got that cerulean blue up the top. Then at the base, a bit of this granulating imperial purple with a bit of neutral tint. So nice, and love textures. One moment, we'll dry it off. Okay, so to finish this one off now, we are wanting to put in all the really sort of dark tones and mid-tones and dark tones. And I've got a number 6 round brush and a number 8 round brush. I think these will work really well to get in the rest of the detail. And it's tricky because we're looking at the scene and there's actually the shadows. The shadows are actually quite complex. But we're going to simplify this down. Said I want to just get a lot of this in kind of one shape. We'll obviously try to get in some light and darkness in some areas, but this will hopefully turn into one big shape that will join on with the bridges to this side, and then there'll be some light hitting on the left side of these buildings so we can see the general the general sort of light source coming up here. So guys, let's go ahead and get started on this. So righto, number 8. I'm gonna go on with the number 8 round brush. Begin with. Where should we start? Let's mix up some colors first. I'm gonna go with this same ultramarine, granulating ultramarine mixed with a bit of burnt umber. This. Mix that up nicely. And you can actually just make it cooler or warmer by adding more blue or less blue. Okay. It's looking good. It's about a 50-50 mix of water and paint. Okay. Now, I'm going to start here. I don't know why, but I just feel like I want to start there first. This is the side of that building, kind of near to the trees and what have you. So I'm going to get that in just like that, little indication of the edge of that building. And then we've got obviously this side here as well of that building. The light source is coming from that left. So we want to preserve this area here of the building. Okay, so everything else just becomes this same kind of dark shape that kind of blends, mixes together. I mean, here, same thing, sort of light there. Look at these buildings here. There's a bit of light, maybe reflected off that top of that building like that. There's a bit here. Well, more darkness on these buildings like that. Underneath there. Okay. We've got some darkness in here as well. Might swap to the smaller number 6 brush. Get more detail. A bit like that. Separation of these two buildings. Okay, it's just a bit of darkness in there. Bit here as well. There. Okay, good. Cuts to this building here. Darker base there. Got a darker base. Separation through there as well. Trying to find a way to connect everything up here. Just remembering where that light source is coming from too, that left-hand side. The shadows do get a little bit lighter as we go towards the back. They're just more subdued because we're moving further to the distance. So try to kind of lighten up those shadows a bit as you head towards that back section. There's not all that much detail that you need to put in there. You just, like what I'm doing here, I'm just putting a little bit of color at the base of the buildings like that, leaving in some of the left-hand sides of the buildings like that. You know, that's exaggerating a bit of that left, the light on that left-hand side of the building there. Slowly just darkening off some spots like that. There. Okay. And slowly but surely, notice it starts to resemble some basic buildings. Yeah, it's not super obvious at the moment, but it's certainly more than it was before. More darkness at the bottom here as well. More shadows and things. Darkness come in. Sharper areas of darkness like that. Okay, good. What have we got here on that right hand side? Again, we've got this kind of courtyard we were putting in before. You can just again start to put in a little more detail. That's kind of like a circular shape here. How much you want to apply and add in there. Darken a bit more on this side in here. green here maybe. Okay. Even like, like a tree. Just around this side, I'll just add them in, kind of in darker sort of. Nice. And there we go. Not too much. Tree looks nice as well. I love the look at that granulation and it's beautiful. Just put in a little big wash over some areas on that right hand side of the tree. That overdo it. This side of the building, surprisingly, is actually darker. Yeah, almost missed that out. Yeah, that should be darker. I'm using like a watered down warm color. Bring that down into the shrubs or trees. That also this side of the building, you'll notice it's like slightly darker. Color that in. Yeah, they're all kind of slightly darker on the right hand side. Light wash in that section. Apply that, yeah. And don't just leave it. Once you've done it, just leave it and continue on. You can do things like also soften off edges if it's too much of a hard edge. That's something you can do. Soften it off. Actually, I think that's quite okay for that right hand side. Let's go ahead and keep working on stuff on the left now. This tower, I want to put in a bit of darkness on the right hand side. There's some bits and pieces here in the background. Again, it's just so much detail in there that we don't need to really bother with it. Mainly just I'm trying to create a slightly more contrast in the water so that we've got these buildings and then they meet and stuff like a little bridge in the background there. Yeah, that I've just in. Here's another little bridge. Yeah. Oops. There. This one in here. Bridge. Connecting them up. Simple shape across. Good. Okay. Gondola. Splash of paint. Need to darken that off. And of course, we need to put in this dark shape that goes across the ground. So I'm going to mix up a bit of brown and a bit of blue. Brown and blue. Go ahead. It's in, yeah. Just think of a vertical line that runs down. That down the page. Pretty dark. Kind of like the reflect. Oh, good, good. Tying everything up in the buildings and connect a bit as well, if possible. Bringing that up here to the tower a bit. See, it's bring that shadow, that just coming up. But most of the buildings actually are kind of like a negative shape painted around this. Soften some spots as well. We can, of course, go through it later. Again, and another go if we need to. These little ripples of water. Some little ones. Too many. Maybe underneath the bridge as well. There. Right. Let's continue on to that left-hand side. The buildings here on that left-hand side. Again, quite a dark color. I'm going to go in and try to get in some of these buildings. And perhaps with an exaggerated shadow. That more darkness. This will connect up with this tower. That. But I'm trying to get in like a indication of some shadows coming like inside of the building. If you can see, just really more exaggerated. On the right hand side, yeah, dial that down, connect on nicely. That. More important that the shapes kind of just connect. Okay, good, good, good. Section here. Yeah. Again, the shadows again are just going to be cast towards the right. You're going to get most of the light on this side of the scene, but sometimes the top of the roofs like that have like a little bit of shadow. So I like to imply some of that there. Some of these like some pieces on the shadow cast well like that. Just the shadow of this part of the building there. Sometimes you're going to need to exaggerate a bit. Darken here. Okay. Okay. Right hand side there. A lot of this stuff here is just all one, it's all just one color. I've exaggerated some of the shadows on that building, but a lot of it's just one color. But they're varied very slightly, so they kind of just turn run down the page. Good, good, good. Oh. I'm going to darken this building here at the base, just at the sharper shadow there. Some darker kind of tree shapes running around the building like that. And move this down as well, just kind of like the shadow of that building there. And then we've got sharper shadows running behind this one. Here. Yeah. Okay. I want to get rid of this beautiful wash behind those, so I'm just again trying to leave some of that previous wash in there. I mean, especially this. That's amazing. Okay. Good, good. Getting there, guys. We're getting there. Oh, look, this is actually going to be darker. This top section. Next element of darkness there. Bring this down. That. Got a bit of darkness on that right-hand side of the building. Blend that, merge that on. A little bit of light in there would be nice too. Fantastic. I think we are more or less done with that second wash. Certainly a few other things you can do to darken off the areas. You can just drop in some paint. Feel like there's just a little bit of darkness that you'd like right side of some of these buildings to increase the value. Drop that in. I'm getting that on some of these spots like here. Sort of off areas to give it a bit of kind of off effect. Trying to get this kind of this atmospheric sort of feel. I think some darkness at the base of this building would be better. Just a little tad darker. Some of these parts here. Because at the moment it's just it's pretty light there. Got some verticals. Nice. Just to connect it up. Just connects things up a bit more. Okay, we've got all this darkness here. I just want to bring that down here a little bit. It's almost like the light's coming in from this weird sort of angle like that. Okay. Righto. That's good. We will leave this and give it a dry, and then when it finishes off, when it's finished drying, I'll show you how to put in little windows similar to what we did before. We'll call it day. So just give me one moment. Okay, how is everyone doing so far? I hope there's a few of you still around. These turned into kind of little marathon sessions where we're painting for hours. Certainly done my painting for the day, and for those of you who are still around, I think you're done your painting also for the day or for potentially for the week. Uh, awesome. Chris says, "I love this painting so far. I think it looks great." Thank you, Chris. It's turning out all right. I'm wanting to put in some more shadows here. Just a little bit more darkness to connect. Yes, to make this section look a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how we go. We could at least add in some little bits of darkness underneath the rooftops and things, but I do feel perhaps a slight more contrast on buildings and around the bases. Here, around these bases, maybe like on the right hand side of this building and the tower. I think that will help out quite a bit. And then we'll put in the really, really dark tones over the top to draw out the windows, areas of the or the rooftop as well. We can detail. I'll show you some quick little detailing techniques. Okay, so let's let's go ahead and started, guys. So Irene says she's watching. Try later when free. Irene, can always watch them later. So let's get started. Let's continue on. Who's yeah? Let me know how you are doing, guys. Still following along, okay? Or help in section, that kind of thing. I'll gladly answer some of your questions. But like I was mentioning before, I do want to darken off some of these buildings a little bit, create a teeny bit of contrast there. So again, I'm just using this color, this kind of darker mix of kind of this purplish color. It's basically a little bit of ultramarine plus raw umber. Up the video reference photo. So it's certainly tricky to see, but a little wash of this, I think, will go a long way. Imply a bit more of this shadow, darkness running across. Yeah. darkness here, there, bit of the rooftop area there, underneath the rooftops anyway. Some of that. Okay. Bit here, maybe on the right hand side of this building. That. Good. I want to also start getting in some areas of the windows and things like that. I think that's what we kind of mentioned before as well. So I'm using pure neutral tint, just dry the brush off a little, and then I'm going to go straight in. So I know I've got a window like roughly here, another being somewhere here, yeah, bit higher up actually, this. There we go. And again, we can just use that dry brush technique to add in some small details on the scene, on the tower. Just detail that. Really, it's not a whole lot of detail, but just a little bit, essentially a little bit in there to help us identify that tower a bit more. Darkness in there. That perhaps a little bit more in here. Here. Great. In here. Base as well, maybe in the right hand side of the tower. This is where darkness on that right hand side. So just that running down. Hopefully that will help indicate the shadow on that right hand side of the tower. And I want it to kind of subtle as well. So when that dries off, I think that should be okay. Place. Yeah, we've got this building here, and it's kind of there's more of a darkness in this section, so I'm gonna try that. This will also cut around that tower a bit as well, so a little bit there. Just a bit of dry brush. I'm really not interested in this section there on top of the rooftop. We can just a slight indication of darkness in that section. Bring out this bit as well. But this bit section like carry this down a bit more. That's this in there. That's okay. Maybe a bit of darkness underneath this building. That. I want to start let's just put in some of the windows on that right hand side first. This will dry off a little. And go in and look at just drop in a little bit of paint in there, a little bit of that darkness. And you have it. You've got a couple of windows here and there. You got even this, it's darker, so I thought I'd add in a bit of that dry brush. Extra contrast there. Here on that side of that thing. Not really any no windows here, but you can put them on there if you want to. Having a look. Maybe I'll just do one. Let's just try a couple, something like that. Go, bit of filling on that rooftop. Underneath here, perhaps. Some little windows here, sides, some buildings here. Okay, like that. tops, darkness in sections. Another thing you can do is also in the marks like that on the paper, direction of tiles and things on the. You've got to be very careful with this so that it's not do it. That's kind of a way that you can do it. Yeah. Some more darkness, neutral tint. Here's a window. Here's a window. As you go to the back, you also get a lot of these dark little shapes, and it's just I'm just dropping in paint here and there. Not even I'm looking at the reference every now and then, but to be honest, I'm making it up as I go. Some bits and pieces. You can go closer and just tell more if you'd like. Necessarily do what I'm doing. I'm more kind of aiming for balance and looking for spots that I can draw out a bit better. You know, even in the background. Like these will indicate windows. Yeah. I want to overdo it though. What do we got? Maybe a few more here. And these ones are kind of going to go wet into wet. See, like, just gone into that before with a bit of wetness. So there's windows. We call it won't be completely sharp, which is okay. More windows. Right, a bit of that in the edges. Oh, there, look, there's kind of something on the roof. Ooh, forgot. Okay, we'll leave it as that. Basic, but does the trick. Good. More windows. Yeah, these. Just finding a balance. Where to put them in. There, there, there. Hidden behind that. Okay. Even you'll notice behind some of these buildings and stuff, you have like quite significant darkness. So yeah, you can just add in a bit more color, darkness behind it to draw out that things. That okay. Darkness in this section. Shadow, I don't think it's like it should be a little segment, so I'm gonna just building a okay. And then we got these like little bridges as well. So yeah, up to you. Should you want that? Oh, okay. I think we are pretty much almost done. Sure. It's just and finding some areas that you want to out and some of these vertical lines, some vertical more detail. So these there, rooftop. I don't know if I really want to put in a few that with the sort of tiles and stuff. It's just up to you. And some birds, little birds flying around in the sky. Good thing. And a few here. It's near the back end. Towers. That. Yeah. Oops. That's overboard there, didn't I? And also put some of them flying through the scene. Normally I use a teeny bit of white gouache as well to help with that. Let me see if I can find a little bit out. I don't think there's really much else that I want to add in this one. Apart from just perhaps a bit of gouache. Even that, it's not necessary. Just touch and go in here. Bring a bit of that kind of sparkle back into the scene. Right. Darkness. Cover a bit of that white. Okay, I'm going to stop messing around with this now. Let's take off the paper and let's see how it's turned out. Okay, fantastic. So we've done a couple of paintings today. I don't know how long I've been streaming for. Would it be nearly 3 hours? Potentially nearly 3 hours. So we've got a couple great little scenes, couple great little Venice scenes that we have gone through and painted. Let me know how you're going in the chats, how you found this workshop as well. Did you enjoy it? Did you get enough out of it, I guess, in terms of your expectations? If you have any questions, final questions as well, let me know. There are a few questions here. What colors did you use? What colors did you use? So this is Caroline A. Love says, what colors did you use for the dark side houses by the tower? So basically I've just used a bit of ultramarine mixed with some burnt umber, mixed with a bit of burnt umber. So if you have a little bit of darkness, dark color, that's fine. Anything could be neutral tint. It could be like a grey mixed from all your primaries. Not a huge deal. It's just I'm trying to get some kind of darker tone that's perhaps leaning towards the more warmer side, a warmer sort of darker tone. I hope that answers your question. And Carolyn says mine looks very unlike yours. Look, I think it takes time. Basically, it takes a lot of time to to be able to translate a reference picture. This is a very tricky reference picture. So if you have something and you've made it through to the end, you've done a good job. This was a tough one for me. I found this pretty tough. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there, but it was good. It was good fun. It was a good challenge to do. Always good to try something new. I don't normally do ones with this sort of view, so this sort of downwards view, bird's eye view. So I hope you guys got a lot out of this one. Um, and yeah, if you're looking for some more classes, a little bit more of the stuff that I make, I do have a Patreon as well. You can have a look at that in the description. Visit patreon.com/watercolor mentor. Also got courses on my website. You can have a look. It's all under the description. You can check it out. And yeah, it's just a way that you can support me as well if you and you want to see a little bit more too. Would be much appreciated. But if you ever get the chance, please share this around. You can share our Facebook if you've got part of some like watercolor groups and stuff like that. Yeah, if shared around, that'll be fantastic. Just helps me to get through to more people. Um, so yeah, like I said before, I'm thinking for the next few ones, I will try just doing one painting, and perhaps I just want to see what the dynamics going to be like, whether it's going to be, uh, I can just focus it a bit more and maybe go through some little quick exercises with you guys as well at the start. Um, so Gian, Bernos says, this has been a great challenge. Thank you. I'm very impressed with your abilities and teaching style. Thank you. Thanks, Gian. It's it's been tricky for me doing some of these on these sort of workshops when I first started, um, because it's hard to get feedback. Normally, when you're teaching people, it's face to face. There's a lot of interaction and stuff, but the chats are great. I always check them, and I think it's fantastic that I can reach some of you guys who are living on literally the other side of the world from where I am. TJ Hall says, thank you. Fantastic fun. First time trying, and it turned out better than I expected. I have much more to learn. Only completed the first, but watched the second. Thank you from Frisco, Texas, US. Fantastic. Thank you, PJ. Thank you for joining. And I'm glad that you made it through to the end. It's quite an accomplishment. So this will all be available afterwards if you do want to watch later on. Okay, but thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming along. And we do have a group as well, facebook.com/watercolor mentor. Sorry, facebook.com/groups/watercolor mentor. You can upload your work there, get some feedback from myself and also from the members there. There's about 1,000 members already. We have another group that has quite a lot more members, and that's more like a generic group that I made when I first started. So yeah, check out the page, and lots of resources there. A lot of the stuff I make is free. So um, thank you. Thank you all for coming on. Chris says, thank you so much. You are a wonderful teacher. Thanks, Chris. I hope I'm always looking for ways to improve my teaching style and to get through to people, because it can be tricky at times to know, yeah, just to know whether you guys are getting what I'm explaining or not. And yeah, if there's anything that I can improve on, certainly just let me know. I know some people have mentioned like if I can upload the reference pictures onto a separate website or something. I'll look into that. Maybe I can put the downloads up on a separate link, because Facebook can be a little bit tricky to find the classes. So not the classes, but the reference photos. So yeah, if there's anything that can essentially help you to learn, I am all ears. I'm all ears, because I want to make sure that this is worth your time as well, and that I can also improve in my teaching style. I get rid of that photograph for some reason. Oh, there it is. I've gotten rid of it. I'm trying to get both of the scenes in. Trying to get both of the scenes in. The second one's certainly a lot more detailed. It commands some more detail because there's so many. And look at that, there's things and things like that. But I had good fun, guys. I had really good fun, and there's always a sense of accomplishment when you finish something. It may not turn out the way that you wanted it to turn out. It may not even look like the reference photo, but if you make it through and you give it a go, that's the most important thing because I don't know about you, but if you can think back on a time where you've started something new, or like a new scene that you painted, or maybe like a new activity, new sport, very rarely do you ever start out and get it right the first time. It just takes so many goes. And it, it- another thing to do is if you don't like it now, leave it. Um, Wait for tomorrow and have a look at it again, and it will potentially look better away from the reference photo, because when the reference photo is there, it's just so hard to compare. There's the detail in it is, for us to get in that amount of detail, we'll be here for the whole day. So, really appreciate you all being here. Marianne Leong says she's still going. Have a good one. You do teach very well. Thank you, Caroline. I'm yeah, I'm glad that I'm certainly reaching through to you guys, and yeah, I'll give you another minute or so to uh, ask me any future questions, not future questions, but any questions in general. Okay, then I'm gonna go and myself some lunch. Maybe have a bit of a stroll outside. I need to get outside, guys. I've been indoors really been indoors for way too long. I can get like that when I'm working on stuff, painting or working on some of the online website and stuff like that. I can just sit and forget that there's other things to do. So uh, I think that is it. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. And any questions, feel free to ask them. Message me, or you can go onto the page and message me on there as well. I will see you all next time.